Madam President.
Senator from Rhode Island.
Madam President, something else happened this afternoon in Washington that I wish to relate today on the floor, and that is that the American Enterprise Institute hosted the launch of Senator Schatz's and my American Opportunity Carbon Fee Act. I am delighted that the American Enterprise Institute did that. Their conservative credentials are rock solid, but they don't fear debate, and they were extraordinarily helpful and open-minded in allowing us to make the announcement and in hosting a discussion on the bill that followed. Virtually every person on the Republican side who has thought the climate change problem through to a solution has come to the same place: a revenue-neutral, border-adjustable price on carbon. That means that all the revenues are returned to the American people. Former Treasury Secretaries Baker, Schultz, and Paulson, all Republicans. Former EPA Administrators Ruckelshaus, Thomas, Riley, and Whitman, all Republicans. And leading economists and former presidential economic advisors Arthur Laffer, Gregory Mankiw, and Douglas Holtz-Eakin, all Republicans, along with many others, support a revenue-neutral, border-adjustable carbon fee. Well, that's what we do. You all know the phrase, offering an olive branch. Former Republican Congressman Bob Inglis described our proposal as an olive limb, not a branch, in pairing a carbon tax with corporate tax reduction. And he said it provides what he called an opportunity for conservatives to show how free enterprise can solve climate change. When I first came to the Senate in 2007, this place was humming with bipartisan action on climate change for years. But in 2010, dead stop. The Republican Party disappeared from the field after the fossil fuel industry secured from 5 justices on the Supreme Court the infamous Citizens United decision. The fossil fuel industry immediately, as if they saw the decision coming, launched a veritable Soviet May Day parade of political artillery and rocketry. No special interest had that kind of political muscle before Citizens United. The combination of this industry political weaponry, plus the proliferation of dark money, plus the shady science simulacrum of climate denial, has been formidable. Despite this, there's room for optimism. There are Republicans willing to work with us. They just need some prospect of safe passage through the political kill zone the fossil fuel industry has created. Over 1,000 American companies have voiced their support for the Paris Climate Agreement, including corporate powerhouses like Walmart, Goldman Sachs, PepsiCo, and Google. If American companies were to mobilize in Congress, just like they did for the Paris Agreement, that would be a game changer. But notwithstanding all that corporate support, the big business trade associations and lobbying groups have lined up against action on climate change. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, so-called, probably more accurately described as the U.S. Chamber of Carbon, is one of climate action's most implacable enemies, despite the good climate policies of so many of its member companies. How is it representing its members? It's incredible. The American Petroleum Institute represents Shell, BP, Total, and Exxon, companies that claim to support the Paris Agreement and the Climate Leadership Council's carbon fee proposal. But API opposes anything getting done. We all know here that corporate America commands extraordinary attention in our political system. If American corporations aligned their political engagement on climate change with their actual position on climate change, which should not be asking too much of them, we could get going. So in a spirit of hopefulness, Senator Schatz and I reintroduced at the American Enterprise Institute our American Opportunity Carbon Fee Act, a framework that I hope both Republicans and Democrats can embrace. The bill would establish an economy-wide carbon fee on carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emissions. The fee would be assessed where it is easiest to administer, minimizing the compliance burden. Other greenhouse gases would be tied to their carbon dioxide equivalency, with a bumper for fluorocarbons to account for their high greenhouse gas potency. Sequestering, utilizing, or encapsulating carbon dioxide emissions would earn you a credit. The market would begin to work in this space. Our bill sets the 2018 fee per ton of carbon emitted at $49, the central range of the social cost of carbon last estimated by the Office of Management and Budget. That fee would increase each year at a real 2% until emissions fall 80% below 2005 levels, and then it would follow inflation. Border adjustments for energy-intensive goods traded with countries that have weaker or no carbon pricing will make sure that we protect our industries at home. We took care to design the border adjustments in harmony with World Trade Organization rules. This carbon fee would produce meaningful reductions in carbon emissions. The nonpartisan Resources for the Future projects a 36% drop by 2025 compared to the benchmark year of 2005, exceeding the U.S. Paris Agreement commitment significantly. In addition to the environmental value, of course, a carbon fee also generates revenue. In this case, nearly $2.1 trillion in revenue over 10 years. Our plan would return every dime of that to the American people. Here is how. First, the bill lowers the top corporate income tax rate from 35% to 29%, a long-standing goal of Republicans. This would cut American corporate taxes by almost $600 billion over the first decade. Second, it provides workers with a $550 refundable tax credit, $1,100 for a couple, against payroll taxes. The tax credits, which would grow with inflation, would return almost $900 billion to the pocketbooks of American households over the first 10 years. Third, it would provide a matching benefit to Social Security beneficiaries, Veterans Program beneficiaries, and certain other retirees. These benefits would total nearly $500 billion over 10 years. Finally, the bill would establish a block grant, delivering the remaining funds to our states, over $100 billion, to help workers in coal country, for instance, or provide coastal protection for seaside states facing terrible threats of sea level rise, at the discretion of the state to meet local needs and concerns. Madam President, I understand the suffering in coal country. Coal country will continue to decline as natural gas drives coal out of the energy market. There is now no mechanism to remedy that inevitability. Remember Huey Long's old slogan, "Every man a king"? With a carbon fee, we could make every miner a king. A solid pension, retirement at any time, full health benefits for life, a cash bonus based on years worked, a voucher for a new vehicle, a college plan for their kids. These things become doable with carbon fee revenues. It is not the miners' fault that the coal industry has collapsed. They worked hard. They did dangerous work. It is a rigorous occupation to be a coal miner, and they are entitled to respect. Give them their dignity. Make them kings. With a small fraction of the revenue from a carbon fee, we could assure every single coal miner a lifetime of comfort, security, and financial stability. Senator Schatz and I extend an open hand, an olive branch. Give Senator Schatz and me a Republican to negotiate with. That shouldn't be too much to ask. Then let's talk about the economics. Let's talk about where the revenue should go. And because I know it's a part of the Baker-Schultz-Paulson proposal, let's talk about where we can get fact-based, scientifically rigorous analytics of which regulations might become unnecessary or duplicative of a carbon fee's emission reductions. Let's restart the bipartisan conversation we had going until 2010. Let me close with an appeal to our patriotic sense. America holds herself out as an exemplary nation, a city on a hill. The tactics of climate denial and political menace the fossil fuel industry has deployed around here have degraded our city. There is, Madam President, a remorseless functioning of the laws of physics, of chemistry, and of biology. Deny them all you want, but time will tell. And even now, everyone from our Secretary of Defense to every single senator's home state university understands that climate change is real and urgent, is teaching the science of climate change in those universities, and is warning of the dire consequences. When the presiding officer left the Environment and Public Works Committee the other day, I was talking about the Leopold Center at the Iowa State University and the powerful language in which they described the present effects on agriculture of climate change and the danger of disruption to the fundamental systems of the planet. That's the home state universities telling us what the facts are. So one day, there will be a reckoning. And the longer our American democracy lies incapacitated at the hands of the fossil fuel industry, the worse the outcome will be. And the worse the outcome, the greater the harm to the country we love that holds its example up to the world. We are all here extremely fond of John McCain. John McCain returned to the Senate yesterday and called our country the strong, inspiring, inspirational beacon of liberty and defender of dignity of all human beings. Some beacon. If we continue to get this wrong because of what one industry did to our politics using political menace, dark money, and fake science. America deserves better than what we are doing in this chamber on this issue. I thank the presiding officer, and I yield the floor.